Okay, we're rolling.
Well, Dave, thanks very much for taking the time to have a chat with us and talking through your lean journey and the work that you've done in this business. Maybe a first question would be just to understand why you embarked on the lean journey in the first place. Why do you think this would be of value to your business?
I suppose mostly because the marketplace is changing, and we have to change to keep up, if you like. And what worked for us for the last 30 years is still working, but we wanted to make it more effective, more efficient, and take on those challenges of customer 10% year-on-year cost downs, and how do we do that? So yeah, having met you guys, it seems right to go on the lean journey and see if we can improve in any way, shape or form, and certainly seems to be coming to fruition now. So.
Well, good. And before we start to talk about the results and the great work that you've been doing with the team, perhaps you can just give us a bit of an insight into some of the challenges. I know that certainly finding the time to actually take things forward with the lean activity has been challenging. How have you actually worked with the team to try and encourage them to take time on continuous improvement and take time away from the day-to-day stuff?
I think it's become clear that you have to make the time, because I like one of the analogies I heard was, I'm busy pushing this cart with 4 square wheels and I haven't got time to fit the round wheels, and I like that analogy, because you do have to make the time, and you regain that time, and I have learned from just this short journey really that the investment in time will create a major gain for you in time, funny enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's having to make the time that's essential, and it's you are reliant on your team to create some time as well, or put additional time in to gain that, to get to the goals that you're aiming for, which is actually to make people's lives easier and be more efficient.
Yeah.
Which effectively gives you more time.
And that cultural shift from we're being very busy working on the next customer order versus continuous improvement. How is that? Have people had to change? Have people had to work differently to sort of change the way that they're operating on a day-to-day basis? How's that impacted the people at shop floor level and some of the team leaders?
Well, it's actually made everybody's lives just a little bit better, a little better controlled. They're now doing something that they understand through process mapping and the PDSA cycle. We're gaining a much greater understanding of what we do and why we do it and what's the value in it. And I think people feel they have a greater purpose now, and if we're not putting out small fires, we are running a business properly, and certainly taking out some of the urgency by having much greater forward thinking. We always thought our business, given that it's 120 bespoke 3-dimensional projects a month, given late approvals and late artwork, etc., it was destined to be almost a panic business. But we have found through process mapping and future state mapping and left to right charts and various video data capture of what we do, that actually it can be improved. And oddly, our lead times are getting longer through better planning. So yeah, and the people are enjoying the process now.
That's good. Yeah. And talking about some of the specific results that have been delivered by you and the team through this whole process, when we think about on time in full, improved quality and actual sort of cost savings in the business, what are the sort of measurable results that you're starting to see or have seen throughout the programme?
Okay, well, most important for us is the overall measure. The overall measure is our costs versus almost the cost of goods sold and the cost in that, and we are seeing that coming down. And it's in the early days some very quick gains. Now the gains are getting more controlled, and I think they'll be more progressive now, but they're certainly sustained, and that's the most important part of what we've done. We haven't improved one job and relied on that to improve. We've improved the whole process, so it affects every job. So now we have a an across-the-board improvement, and some of those improvements are quite enormous within the whole picture of what we do. Some of the gains are 50% even, improvements in productivity and output, which obviously affects the labour content of everything that we're doing, but of course it's not a 50% saving on the job, it's a 50% saving in a percentage of the job cost. So yeah, it's been accelerated in the first months, and it's becoming more progressive now, because we would rely on repeat work to continue with those gains.
Sure.
And not all of our work repeats, it's new and bespoke.
Okay.
But yeah, certainly the principles now are in place. It was one of our biggest problems in the past, I suppose, was getting the sustaining improvements. But now, through proper process mapping and proper training, we are sustaining the improvements, and the guys are just eager to get on with the next one, with the new principles.
Yeah.
So it's fabulous, to be honest.
Well, that's great, and I know that you've been working in different parts of the business, manufacturing, assembly, moving now to sales and commercial areas. But tell me about some of the sort of stuff you've done in transport and logistics, in terms of improving the way you do things and that whole story.
Where the journey started in assembly, what it effectively did, it created a pull on all other areas of the business, which almost meant that to get everything together on time in full, OTIF obviously being the main phrase, OTIF is a requirement through every department of the business. So for your final process to improve, you do need everything around it to improve as well. And it's a fantastic effect throughout the business, because people start to see one area improving, and they start looking over and starting wanting to improve their own department to help that progress. And it became very clear where the next step is, and oddly, it's reversing the cycle. We started nearest the customer with the finished article, and we've worked our way back now to improve the information flow through to the final piece, and the availability of documentation, component parts, materials is all now improved through studying the processes that lead up to the customer receiving the goods. So, and that just gets more and more interesting the more you go back. We're still a way to go with that journey, but where we've gone through logistics and assembly and production planning and machine operation, there's no hiding the fact that in all those areas, everything we've studied through the continuous improvement program has improved.
Yes.
So there isn't a department that can sit outside of that would say it's not worth coming to our department, because we've improved something everywhere we've gone, which has improved the whole cycle of the business. Now, it's for everybody understands that even a piece of information is required on time in full, not just a piece of board or a display or a component part. Its information needs to be on time in full as well. So yeah, in logistics now we have a calm logistics team who are sitting there with much further advanced planning. They were working and booking vehicles and booking into delivery destinations, to the most part 3 to 4 days ahead of the delivery slot. Now we're sometimes 2 weeks ahead, and in some cases 3 weeks ahead. If you talk to our logistics team now, they'll tell you that they've actually booked stuff in now that's, today, 17th of June. We're booking stuff in for the 3rd of July, 4th of July. It's an unbelievable difference, and most importantly, because we have pushed our thinking process out that far, today's emergency that nobody had time to deal with before, and everybody was getting uptight and running around the business trying to put small fires, just is an easy problem to solve, because we're not panicking about the future. We know it's in order, everything is planned, and we've set out status indicators on our planning sheets which make it clear that that one's been dealt with. So now the logistics team come in and they go, right, so I can move on to, I'm on the 4th of July now. Fabulous. It's just made such a difference.
Well, that's really, really interesting. And I guess in summing up, Dave, what would be really interesting, I guess for others to understand is, if you were to advise other businesses that are embarking on this sort of lean journey, who are just right at the starting point, what sort of things might you recommend that they consider or that they take on board in the early days? Because obviously you're quite a long way down the line now.
Yeah, okay. I think there's the end goal and the benefits are worth going through the journey for. We have found that in most areas, when you start to study people's processes and how they work, and you start asking them questions about why they do what they do, they may feel criticised in the short term, and it takes just a few sessions to get people on board. So I would say my advice would be patient. Don't judge anything by the first visit or the first meeting or the first stage of mapping out your current process. Everybody feels criticised for some reason, but it's just asking them what they do now. And then you find in the second session or the third session, people start, now they're awake and they're alert to it, and they can start to see themselves having mapped out their process, where even they start to note the improvements. So if you're starting the journey now, if we were starting the journey now, I think it would have been helpful for me to understand that people may feel criticised and they may be quite cagey at first and arms folded, I know I do a good job, But I think everybody that we've worked with now in the team, and it's quite an extensive team now that we've got involved, probably 30 to 40 people now involved in our continuous improvement programme, with more to go, have all, after the third session, warmed to the whole thing, come up with ideas, can't wait for their next lean meeting, and have thought about it before, and start to inject their own ways that we can maybe parallel process, do something sooner. And there seems to be an enjoyment now in the PDSA loop, where we're studying what we've done and assessing it or adjusting. People are enjoying it now. They feel like they're in a better place, and as I've said, every area that we've worked on now has shown an improvement. And to quote any statistics is difficult, but certainly in output and productivity, we have particular jobs that are showing 50%, 33%, and I think in fact 33% seems to be quite a common figure in our improvement in productivity, but also for us as a business, it's the visibility. The prior planning is now much better controlled, and we all have greater visibility, which creates a calm in the business. So that's invaluable. So,
Dave, thanks very much for that, and really appreciate your time and your thoughts.